So it was unanimous that they were all satisfied with that. And so Bishop says, well, I'll tell you how we'll do it. I'll pick a man, and then Vader, you pick a man, and then Jim, you pick a man, and we'll just keep going around and until we've chosen everybody. And each one of you can just pick the fellow that you'd like to have in your group. Well, naturally, Howard later, he got all of the cowmen there with his group, and most of his group was made up of the cowmen, like the Williamses and the Davises. Of course, I picked my best friends, and so then we were divided up. But we were all stay together. So the bishop said, now I think the thing we should do, we don't all go home now, our own homes, because something could happen in the night and we wouldn't know what was happening. So let's all camp right up here at the church. So every fellow go down to his own home and get all the food that you got there and bring it up here so we'll have our food all together. So each fellow went home. And so, of course, in the way things were in those days, that we lived so far from supplies that we used to have to go with team and wagon down to Duke Land or Juarez in order to get supplies such as flour and sugar and things, because we just had one little store in Chupi, and some of the time it was out of everything. And so nearly everybody always tried to keep a couple of sacks of flour and, enough sugar and other things to maybe last a month or two, so you wouldn't have to be going down after supplies so often. So when we got all of our food together, we really had enough food there to feed the bunch of us for, you might say, a whole year. And I remember too that Sam Brown, is the father of my son-in-law, Harold Brown, and he was there with a group, and he said, now here, fellows, this little store that I got over there, he said, if any of these revolutions come in, he says, the first thing they'll do, of course, is go to that store, and they'll take everything there that I've got. Now, he says, if any of you men want anything that I've got there in the store, why, you just come over and get whatever you want. If you want to make a list of it, all right, and says if the time comes when you want to pay me a little something for it, that's all right, but if you don't, why, I'd sure a lot rather that you have it than to have him come in and just simply take it all. So I thought that was quite a nice thing for a man to say, and a lot of fellows went over there, and they got shoes and overalls and shirts and cartridges and things of that kind that he had there. And so then, then I think the bishop was the fellow that said this. Now I said, I'll tell you, we never know who's going to come in on us, or whether anybody will come. But when they do come, they might come in a big force, and we wouldn't be able to stay. We'd have to get out of here. We'd have to leave in a hurry. And it could be that maybe we would be surrounded and the whole bunch of us would be arrested. We never know. Now that could happen, because this is war. And he says, I think one of the first things we better do, we better take some supplies, and we know where there's 1 or 2, 3 caves out here in the mountains that those revolutions wouldn't know anything about it. And he said, I think we ought to take some food out there and put in cache in one of these caves, and put a gun out there, and put a little clothing out there, and all of us knows where it is. And so we did that. In 3 different places, we took stuff out and put in these 3 caves, and we all knew where these were. Now then, we had just found these caves little by little until, you could ride in those hills maybe for days and never find these places. So we thought that would be a good idea. So then that's what we did. We went out and took our pack mules and our pack horses, and we took a certain amount of stuff, and we placed in each one of these caves. Well, then the next thing we decided to do, well, now because there's only one road coming into Chupi, and if any revolutionists or anybody else come in on us, they'll come down this road, because they just won't dare to get off that road, because, getting out of this mountain, there's no trails, no other roads, and so everybody that comes in here comes down the road. So we better put a guard out on this road every night, so as to not let anybody come in and surprise us, because they come in here and have us surrounded before we ever knew they was here. We would be in bad shape. So what do you say, we start out by two fellows going out each night and taking turns going on guard. Well, we'd been there for about a week and nothing had happened, but each day, each one of us would go down and take care of our stock, feed the pigs and one thing and another, and then we'd come back and be together there at our camp, church. And so after we'd been there about a week, the way I remembered, it finally came turn for two of my men to go out on guard. So I said, well, I'll go, and I took a fellow by the name of Charlie Anderson to go with me. And the way I remember it, just about a half moonlight night that night, we went out on the road out across Chupi Meadows. Everybody who lived down there knows where that was. Beyond that, out on what they call Juniper Flat. That's about 3 or 4 miles maybe from Chupi. So we thought that far enough out, if anybody came along, we would be able to get back into our camp and give notice that someone was coming in on us. And so I remember that Charles and I got out there and we took our horses and we went off of the road about 100 yards into some thick pines, little pines, where we couldn't be seen from the road. And then we took turns, one staying awake and the other sleeping. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was the one that was on guard, and I heard a racket, and I could tell somebody was coming down the road. And before I awakened Charles, I listened, and first thing you know, I could see them coming, and they were on horses, and they were riding right down the road. And I awakened Charles, and we just sat there, and we could see through the trees in the half moonlight night. And we counted what we thought about 100 men on horses. They were riding right down the roads, horse side by side. And then back of them, we counted what we thought would be about 200 more men. So there was about 300 of them that was coming in on us. Well, then we had our horses already saddled, and we just got on our horses and we cut around through the timber in a different way, and we beat it into Chupi, and we got in there. Of course, every fellow was in bed, and we wakened everybody up and said, boy, there's a whole army of revolutionists or whoever they are, and they're coming right in on us, and they've got it planned Indian style about getting in here just at daylight while everybody would be asleep. And I'll tell you, there was a stir that took place right then. So we had our horses right there in the corral, and everybody got busy, and we got our pack horses around there, and we began to loading on the food and stuff we had on our pack horses. And in about a half an hour, we knew that it would take them at least an hour or more to get to us. And as soon as we were all packed up, we just went riding out on the west side of Chupi, because the road was coming in from the east side. And as we was leaving the Chupi Valley going out to the North Peak, we figured that'd be about the best place for us to go. This whole army then came in, and we made it out, and on this peak out there's a spring up there on top where we could get water, and so we decided that's where we better stop to see what was going to take place. We had some field glasses, and we could look down and see what was going on. And just as soon as this bunch of revolutionists got in there, they began to ransacking our houses. And they would even go, we had our work horses there that we had left, and they would hook up our team onto our wagons and pull it around to the front of the house, and they'd go in